Hello and thanks for joining the first edition of Journalist Hangout. This week, it's so good to be back. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. We have 116 more days to the conduct of the 2019 general election in Nigeria. And as we move closer to the all-important polls, you can count on us to give an in-depth analysis of events highlighting the race. Today on the program, IGP deploys AIG, Special Interventions Force, as dozens die in sectorial violence in Kaduna. NLC, TUC, and ULC threaten to begin fresh strike on November the 6th, as governors say they can't pay the new minimum wage. And later on the show, APC rakes in 12.6 billion naira for the sale of forms to aspirants, as Oshiomhole accuses party stakeholders of ganging up against him. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Martins Oloja, and Wale Adeoye. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Many thanks for joining us. If we go by the saying that violence cannot be religion and true religion cannot be violence, then there will be no justifying the recent violence that claimed about 55 lives in Kasuwa, Magani area of Kajuri local government area in Kaduna State. But measures are being taken to curb further spread of this violence. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, deployed an Assistant Inspector General of Police, AIG, in Zone 7, that is Taiwo, Lakanu, to lead the Special Intervention Force to restore peace in the troubled area. The state government has also imposed a 24-hour curfew in Kaduna metropolis to stop the tension from degenerating further. Gentlemen, Babajide, let me start from you. I don't know, as we count down to 2015 election, 2019 election, it's 116 days. I remember in 2014, it was also a situation like this. But in as much as I want to isolate politics from this thing, but why is it that in that part of the country, the cost of human life is nothing to write home about again, especially northeast, northwestern, north central, the northern part of Nigeria right now?
Well, the truth is, human life does not appear to have any value in our country anymore. Killing each other is fast becoming the pastime of Nigerians. It's not so much a north central affair or a northwest affair. Across the country, people are being killed. And a lot of these killings don't get reported. For example, many people are happy that it appears that in Zamfara, we have been able to cage
the rustlers,
the bandits that were killing people for fun. But we've not caged them. What they've in fact done is they've now moved to the highway, the Talata Mafara highway that leads to Sokoto. That is where they kidnap people every day now. They kidnap people.
What did you name the highway again so that they will listen?
Talata Mafara, that is the hometown of the governor of Zamfara State. That highway that leads to Sokoto, they stay there, they kidnap people, they take ransom and still kill people. So this is what they've done. The bombings chased them out of their camps, but they have now taken over the highway. Anybody who lives in Sokoto, who travels frequently, will know that I'm saying the truth. They will hijack buses and then take people, collect ransom. In some cases, they will still kill people even after ransom has been paid. There are people that I know who have been victims of these guys. So criminality generally is walking on two legs in Nigeria. and we're taking people's lives as if
shedding human blood.
Shedding blood as if human beings are just like ram. So this is what is happening. When people say, oh, it's because some of the most idiotic things I hear people say is, oh, the primaries have gone. That's why killings have resumed. There was no time that killing stopped. Whether during primaries or during election, there was no time that killing stopped in our country. It's just
most of the times underreported.
Underreported. Sometimes they don't get reported at all. They don't get reported at all. So there was no time that killing stopped. So to go on and be saying that, politicians are the ones behind it, what? Kajuru. It happened in February. They kill each other in February. This Kaswamagani. It nothing to do with politics. There was no election taking place at that time. There was no primary taking place.
So it's a reprisal?
No. The people in Kaduna State, people have chosen not to be tolerant of each other's religion. This is a fact. Kaduna City itself is like Lebanon, where a part of the city is inhabited by Christians, the other part is inhabited by Muslims. Once you cross that bridge, that Kaduna Bridge, after Junction Road, you cross Kaduna Bridge, from that place, Barnawa, Narai, Television, this is Sabo, right up to where you have the refinery. It is Christians who are living in that area. Down from the bridge, because the bridge now is like the natural boundary for both religions. Now, from that bridge, coming to town, Taiwo Road, right up to, what's it called? Trikania, Tudunwada, all this in those areas, Tudun Power, Kagoro Close, all of those areas. To Kawo, it is the Muslim. So once it's like 6 p.m., you see people start rushing, because in Kaduna, you never can tell when fighting can break out. So once it's evening time, you see people, they start running, they are going to their own end of town. This is where I...
Go to their own end of town?
Yes. I was not only
to seek sanctuary there.
I was not only born in Zaria, I worked in Kaduna for years. So I know what I'm talking about. Remember the first day I talked about this, somebody called in to say, no, Jide was lying. But during the program, some other people were calling from Kaduna that it is you who is lying, because we don't like the truth in our country. This whole thing, the killings in Kajuru, and Kaswamagani in Kajuru, is just based on religion. You don't even want to see a Muslim befriend a Christian. When a Muslim begins to befriend a young Christian, people's blood will boil. It's the same way that the Muslims also react when they see their own young girls fraternizing with Christians. They say, oh, they are going to convert them. Oh, they are going to convert them. So how long do they want to, if you put, I've said it repeatedly that if you take soldiers out of Kaduna streets, and they've been there since around 2000, year 2000, during the Sharia riot. If you take soldiers out of Kaduna town, honestly, people will start killing one another.
Let me go to Mr. Dewey now. We see this, it's basic now. That area is so militarized. I think that's where you have one div. In spite of the fact that we have one of the biggest military formations there, that does not stop the daily killings that we experience in Kaduna, especially Kaduna South.
What happened is tragic, and my condolences to the families of people who have lost their lives, because 55 people killed and 20 people wounded. Some countries will
I'm sure it will be more than that. I'm sure. When Nigeria reports 55, when they report 55,
this is the official
70,
figure.
80.
So you can
officially,
you can times it by 2. Some countries will put their flag at half-mast. This is a real calamity. But you see, there are always warning signals, but we fail to notice those signals. 2 weeks ago, in this local government, a traditional ruler was kidnapped and his wife. And they did not release the woman until last Thursday. And I think up till now, they are still holding on to that traditional ruler. And this, if you look at Kaduna, the problem has been on for a very long time. It was this same state we had the Zango-Qatar crisis
in 1992.
in 1992. And in fact, you know, it's a lesson that we should not underestimate what is going on in Kaduna today. Because that crisis in Kaduna started like a very minor dispute. But it's compelled the federal government, Babangida, to address the country on May 29 or May 25, 1992. Because so many people were killed. But till today, the root cause of these problems we always ignore. Most of these problems arise because of political landmines put in place by the military. They create local governments without consultation with people. And when you are talking about creation of local government, chiefdoms, you know, all the 774 local governments created in this country, none were created by an act of parliament. Yes. You go to territories where there are indigenous people, and then you create local governments to favor people that are not indigenous to that territory. So when there are elections, it depends on the number of people that are more.
Inhabited can only win.
There are local governments that were created to favor individuals. No consultation, no dialogue with the people. Remember the Ogbejo and Ogirigben crisis in the Warri, the Monarchical crisis that lasted for so many. It was only the Delta State House of Assembly that was able to resolve that crisis in Delta State. So that's why we are talking about a national debate.
Then Monarchical has a kind of area council now.
Yeah, like, they gave them a little. So we need to look at the root cause of these problems. It is not enough to send AIGs, temporary measures. Because even when you impose a curfew, people cannot live under curfew for long. Like Irale said, I was in Kaduna about a year and a half ago. You see, people are there, I see Palestine and Israel, and we behave as just a dispute between two people can lead to, a small, crisis. It's more or less like a kind of, a balloon, just looking for something to puncture it. So we need to look for a permanent solution. All these things we are doing, they are just cosmetic. We have to sit down to look at the root cause of this problem so that we can get to the root of solution to this problem.
Well, the analysis he gave about the fact that we are still living with the consequences of the Federal Republic of the Nigerian Army. Federal Republic of the Nigerian Army, as Chris Ali, the retired General Chris Ali, he wrote a book, Federal Republic of the Nigerian Army. Chief of Army Staff. Yes, former Chief of Army Staff. We are still living with the consequences of the fact that they overthrew and federalism in 1966. And you look at what Wale said now, how they created 774 local governments without any act of, yes, we listed it in our constitution. None was created by any act of parliament. You can see that we are democratizing, but you know that we are not there. And these are the issues we feel that democracy and our political leaders should address. Kaduna, as he just gave some history of how we have been living with this, to the extent that even when there was a governor, the one that died in a plane crash, you know that you will see the comments of people when he was there and even when he died. You see the division in Kaduna.
Patrick Yakowa.
Yeah, Yakowa. Yeah, because as a Christian, he was governor. When he was governor, you see there was tension in some other parts of the same Kaduna state. So when are we going to get out of this? When the world is facing is facing development. We are still facing crisis created by religion, ethnicity, and we don't want to live together. When is, as some people have asked, when is a nation in Nigeria? We have so many nations within this nation. We are driven, our politics driven by religion. Our politics still driven by ethnicity. When there is an appointment, we say, where does the person come from? Why is it that this one is a Muslim or a Christian? And this, I think, this analysis should not paralyze us. And we should talk to our leaders that they should sit down and use political party system that we have been advocating. We will get there. It's part of the topics we are discussing, political management. That our leaders should face this crisis. Is, they are facing corruption, we are fighting corruption, but nation building, nationhood, these are issues that should, at the same time, dominate our discussion.
Thank you, Martin.
We should achieve it.
Thank you. I think we have to move forward. Now, the new minimum wage question in Nigeria is becoming more intractable. Negotiation, breakdown, blame trading, and perceived government insincerity are combining to deny the workers a new minimum wage. In what could seal the fates of the agitation, state governors have come out to say they cannot pay a new minimum wage as they have no wherewithal to do so. But organized labor is poised for showdown with governments. In a joint statement signed by the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, that's the Trade Union Congress, and United Labour Congress, that's organized labor, fixed Tuesday, October the 30th, for a nationwide protest. That protest will be followed by an indefinite strike beginning from November the 6th. This, they believe, will compel governments to implement a new minimum wage for workers as they are no longer interested in any negotiation. Who blinks first in this saga? But let us hear the position of the governors from the chairman and the governor of Zamfara State, that's Governor Abdulaziz Jare.
We can do minimum wage of any number we need, but the issue is ability or resources to take care of the minimum wage agreed. That's the something in question. In the last meeting, I think I have spoke about the issue of when the Minister of Labor is here and the committee by the federal government and also our own in-house committee to represent us in the total discussion. We made it very clear that we're not against any upward review of salary. We're not in tandem with the NLC to get minimum wage reviewed of what, but the problem of state is capacity to pay what is agreed. As we're talking today, we are struggling with the 18,000. Some of the states are being paid 35% up, or some of them share 50%, and some of them up to, I just lost my second point, saying there are some states they have salary arrears. So now, if we say, okay, we are going to do the minimum wage, we are going to review it up, then it's not about only reviewing, about how we are going to get the resources to cater for that.
How we are going to get the resources. That's the chairman of the Governors Forum, Governor Abdulaziz. That's the governor of Zamfara State. Gentlemen, we've been on this. It's a running story, but the fresh perspective here is that Labour feels the federal government that somehow they've not been taking us serious. And I remember the days of Adams Aliyu Oshomole as NLC president. I remember that time, if the Nigerian Labour Congress, if they are going on strike, the whole country will be, static. No movement for days till they are able to negotiate with organized labor and everything. Now, what we are witnessing now is that the ULC, the TUC, the NLC, they feel that there's a deliberate effort to undermine them by the federal government. And on the part of the federal government, Babajide, that money they're asking for, even if the federal government can pay it, most of these states will go into coma if they agree to pay it. So, which way Nigeria?
No, I disagree that states will go into coma. They must pay. It's stipulated in the Constitution that every 5 years you must review the minimum wage. So what is important is that law. We must abide by that law first and foremost. Then you have to look at the workforce. Our political leaders, a lot of our governors are cowards. All they can do is stop their political enemies from getting to the Senate and all that. They can't take decisive action. They are cowards. Why do I call them cowards? You have a dormant and over-bloated civil service. You are not prepared to do anything about it because you think you will lose the next election. And you've seen that it happened in the past. That even Oshomole that you continue to talk about is this as a labor leader. As a politician, as a governor, when he saw clearly that elections were approaching, even the revolutionary actions that he took in the state to fix the civil service, to right-size the civil service, he rolled them back. That's not the mark of a good leader. He rolled back those revolutionary actions that he had taken because he was fearing that his party would lose an election. Yet I will know that in the past, here in Lagos, a certain man called Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he was approaching a re-election. It didn't stop him from right-sizing the civil service.
Lagos State Civil Service.
Ayodele Akele and the rest of
the casualties.
They fought him.
Fought him to
They
stand
fought
still.
him. They fought him because I remember even at that time they were saying, oh, if Akele could stand up to Marwa, who was a military head of state, he would stand up to Bola Tinubu. That who is Bola Tinubu? They stood up to him, but he stood his ground. He stood his ground. He was not afraid of losing the election. And at the end of the day, he had his way. Lagos has the most responsive civil service in the whole of Nigeria. Today.
Not overbloated.
Not overbloated because given what is generated from Lagos, given what is generated, given the agencies and the services that they have to provide for a population that is constantly growing.
Up to
everyone wants to come to Lagos. If Lagos has a labor force or a civil service workforce
of 500,000,
even half a million, people will feel that it's justified, but they don't even have up to that.
They don't.
They have in the region of 100,000.
100,000.
So in the region of 100,000, which is the highest in the country. But the thing is, those states that have, look at a state like Benue. When you accuse the governor of inability to pay salaries, the main reason is because Benue has the third highest wage bill in Nigeria after Lagos and Rivers. It's Benue that is next. Does anything that they have in Benue, do the resources that they have in Benue justify having the third biggest
are they employing farmers?
wage bill? There are no companies that process the mangoes and the oranges that they have in abundance in Benue. No. Sometimes a lot of those oranges even rot on the tree. Go to Boko, go to all of these places. You see what I'm talking about? So the thing is, governors must do what is right. Good leaders take big decisions. Big decisions may not necessarily please people. Big decisions will actually hurt people. But at the end of the day, people will see, in the fullness of time, they will see that you did it for common good. But people who are afraid of losing the election, people who want to go to the Senate and they think that could stop them from getting to the Senate, they will not take those decisions. And then we'll be back to what we are talking about. Because Yari, as the leader of the Governors Forum, should actually constitute a committee that would look at right-sizing the workforce across the states. Not just come and be telling us, giving us complaints that you cannot pay. We know you can pay. I can explain why you can pay. There are avenues through which the resources of our country are leaking. The organized banditry in the form of security vote has to stop. It's legalized banditry. It has to stop. Stop from there. And then people must justify what they spend. We can't have a situation where people keep spending money that you cannot be audited. No. When you do that, then you'll be able to free some funds. Let me tell you, even at the federal level, because they will have the same problem. Already now, the wage bill the federal for the federal government is more than 150 billion a month. How can they cope? They can't cope. So a lot of the companies, they are awarding contracts. In Nigeria, we enjoy awarding contracts, and we praise ministers for awarding contracts. When we can get into public partnership deals for some of those roads that are commercially viable, that we can get into PPP. No, we prefer to award contracts so that we can take commission.
Wale, when you look at the reality on ground, let's say GD has provided a long-time solution that they have to right-size. No matter how you look at it, they have to right-size to be able to make sure they have compact civil service. Now, but in this situation now, organized labor is looking at, look, if by December or this November, you don't pay me 30,000 naira. And I'm looking at states like Osun State. I'm looking at states like Ekiti State. How can they phantom such amounts?
I think it's a very complex problem, but it's not a problem that cannot be resolved. In the first instance, 18,000, that ends up around with about 600 naira per day for maybe about a family of 5.
600 naira.
600 naira a day. You pay accommodation.
That's not up to $2.
Feeding.
According to United Nations.
Provision of energy, you know, housing out of this 600 naira. So I think it is ridiculous. We have to do something about this. If you don't pay people well, you are not going to get effective services from them. In fact, you're going to end up criminalizing the civil service. There will be poor performance. You know, it's going to breed corruption. It's going to, you know, destroy their morale. And of course, I think the NLC should also back up this demand with a kind of system change. When you are talking about minimum wage, you must also talk about corruption. You must come out with alternative figures that will justify the reason why the government needs to pay. You cannot have the head of a family of 5 who is using expensive cars worth 50 million, and the children are going hungry and he's saying there's no money to feed them. The way our governors live, government officials, the kind of opulence that's associated with their lives, justify the reason that if they can readjust, they should be able to have excess money to be able to pay workers. So I think the NLC itself should also reinvent itself. It should come out with figures. Let us look at how you can help the state government to achieve this objective. Of course, they have members in the civil service. They should let us know, I mean, the money being paid to lawmakers in the National Assembly, it has to be, they have to investigate and see how we can reduce.
I think I have divine. Okay.
Please.
Yeah.
For these governors are always taking charter, they're always chartering aircraft.
20 million naira.
Yes, $13,000.
$13,000.
To and fro, $13,000.
$13,000.
Yes.
I was in Enugu. I saw one of those.
Fleet of cars.
One of the Nigerian big officials who came, $13,000 to charter, $13,000 to charter an aircraft. Yes. And you do it regularly. You hardly see them in passenger planes.
20 million.
In commercial aircraft that you and I, you hardly see them inside. So they are wasting money. And if they can only block some of these avenues,
honestly,
they will
an ostentatious lifestyle.
Free some funds. Some of those contracts that I talk about, those PPP, if they would do PPP instead of awarding contract, they can free some money that can be used for other things.
Okay, Divine here is from Lagos. Thank you for your intervention, Divine.
Good evening to your panel in the studio.
All right, good evening.
It is quite unfortunate that our governors in this great country are coming up to tell us that they cannot pay the new minimum wage. And it's something that I don't know how even the federal government are looking at it. If you can take a critical look of what is happening in this country, you come up to say in this great country that you cannot pay 30,000 naira minimum wage. I think that governor not supposed to be a governor. In fact, any state that fails not to pay that money, they should declare state of emergency. Let the labor union declare state of emergency, because you cannot for no reason tell me that you are paying 18,000 naira. Thereby you know that even the food you eat a day can even amount to that if care is not taken. So it is quite appalling that the federal government itself, they are trying to push the labor union into the war. Even if they give this notice that they are going on strike, there will be no any atom of adequate attention until the last day.
Thank you, Divine. Thank you for your intervention, Divine. In Algeria, the minimum wage is $46. In Nigeria, $49.3. In America, the minimum wage is $1,300. In Canada, $1,700. And when you want to look at it like this, when there's no basis for comparison, you want to compare with maybe Angola and everything. No. But from the breakdown you gave, 600 naira per day in Nigeria.
Yes.
To get 18,000 naira. Yes. What can that do?
Well, it can't do anything, and I think...
Okay, my producer just told me now we need to take this breather. We'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout, reaching you from Television Continental here. We'll be right back after this time out. Please stay with us. It's your breaking program of the year, Journalist Hangout. And we are looking at the controversy surrounding the new proposed minimum wage.
Yeah. You know, as Jide and Wale have actually outlined this thing, you know, we always discuss Abuja here, we always discuss the federal government without mentioning the contribution of these 36 state governors and 774 local governments to the federation that we always discuss that even should be restructured. So when we talk at general level that we need to restructure, it actually should begin from our family, when we should restructure from family, local government, and even states should restructure. The restructuring is exactly what they said. What is the purpose of going to school? Is learning to change the way we do things. I thought that I would manifest this book in the next topic, but it's very important. The End of Power by this former Venezuelan trade minister who is a scholar. He said, end of power, from boardrooms to battlefields and churches to states, why being in charge isn't what it used to be, by Moise Naim. You know, the reason is this. These governors should learn how to restructure. If you cannot pay, not only right size, you should downsize to the level. And that is why people are talking about federalism. If you cannot pay, look at the Benue example he gave. You having the highest number.
Well, the third highest.
The third highest in the country, you can't pay. You are not generating, you are not manufacturing
you anything. You can pay as at 18.
As at 18. How many months now? How many months? When last they pay salary?
No, as 18 naira.
Yeah, even 18. They can't pay.
Okay. Since the beginning of the year, he's been paying.
He's been paying since the beginning. What happened to...
There were leftovers that he stopped.
You stopped.
Okay. From January.
But you know that workers in that place cannot be happy.
Yes.
So just the example he gave about Edo State Governor, who is still the chairman of the APC, you know, it is not only about him. They should learn to take decision that will make workers to be happy. You know, workers are unhappy in Nigeria because they are not, how much? You are paying somebody 18,000, you can't pay. How does the person get to work? How does the person eat? How does the person send children to school? I mean, this is wickedness. I think we should call it what it is, wickedness. They should restructure the way how they should get a budget of how many workers they can pay. Look at some of our political leaders. They have special assistants. How many? Some of these governors.
2,000.
They have 2,000 special assistants. Special advisors.
Let's start providing solutions. Babajide. Now they want to go on strike. That strike will not do us any good.
No, not at this time.
It won't do us any good. Yes, we just CBN just warned us that we just slipped out of recession. Yes. That we are very, very close. You know, slipping into recession again. So
if we keep turning out reports in the negative, if inflation remains, if it continues to grow the way we've had it for
it was coming down for a long time, consecutively
for the past 3 months now, and if the GDP too continues to decline, because we are on 1.5% growth. If it continues, if that pattern continues, we'll go inexorably back in recession. In fact, we must not experience negative growth for another quarter. We must not experience it. If we experience it, we are back in recession. So now we just have to appeal to government to do what is right. Look at what